Welcome to the Automatic Patient Podcast, where we help your dental practice create a kick-ass recurring revenue model. Here are your hosts, Mr. Jordan and Justin Comstock. This podcast is powered by BoomCloud. Create, manage, and grow your dental membership program. Schedule a demo on boomcloud.com.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Automatic Patient Podcast. I am your host today, Jordan Comstock. With me, my trusty co-host, Bentley Folkman. What is up, Bentley? How you doing, man?
I am doing great. It is getting warm outside, kind of, not compared to where our guest is from, but warm enough where I can see the sun every now and again, and I can wear a short sleeve shirt in the afternoon. So yeah, I'm excited.
That's always good. Yeah, cold weather sucks. Don't know why I live here in Utah. I'm sure all of our listeners know why and how much I hate the snow and the cold weather. So we have an awesome guest today. Her name is Alyssa Kimmins. She is the owner of Lighter Ledgers. Alyssa, what's up and welcome to the show.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on. Excited to be here. Definitely sunny. Going to be 91 degrees today in Scottsdale.
Oh, man. Yeah, that sounds nice, actually. I know it gets really hot there. One time I was in Scottsdale, and I think tires were melting.
Literally, they'll catch fire if they're sitting out in an open lot.
100. Yeah, it was like 118 degrees or whatever. Yep. It was crazy. And my wife's family's lives in Arizona, so we go down there quite a bit. But holy smokes, yeah, it gets toasty.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to stay pale and pasty in this weather, but somehow I manage.
You have to have a swimming pool down there if you live down there, in my opinion.
Definitely.
So cool. So love that you're on the show today. Today we're going to be talking a lot about billing practices. I know look, my mom's an office manager. I've been in dentistry for a long time. I've seen so many problems with billing. But you're new to our audience, so let's start with introducing yourself. Introduce yourself to our audience. Tell us how you got into dental and how you got into the billing space, and then we'll go with the tactical questions here in a little bit.
Sure. So I originally got into dental because as a kid, I didn't go to the dentist very often unless there was a problem. My parents saw it as a luxury. And so when I went and got my teeth cleaned for the first time, I loved the way it felt when I was done. So I'm like, nice. I want to do that. So I started in dental assisting for the experienced dental hygiene from there. And I've been in the field for coming on 26 years. And so over the course of time, I recognized some issues with the front desk, and my back didn't allow me to do hygiene anymore. So I switched over to billing instead.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long were you in dentistry? I don't know if I caught that.
I'm coming up on 26 years this year.
26 years in dentistry. And once you're in dentistry, you can never get out, is what they say.
You can't. Yeah, it's Hotel California. You just don't leave.
It is the Hotel California. Exactly.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, so, and you're just barely starting your business right now, which I know the feelings that you're having right now. Yes. I'm sure it feels a little crazy, but congratulations for starting your own business and leaving clinical to help with bigger problems in dentistry. I think that's really cool. So from your perspective, being in the dental industry for 26 years, what are some of the biggest challenges of billing, and why is that your passion to help this industry fix these issues?
Sure. Yeah, there's several reasons that feed into it. And I would say, complacency is a big problem with whoever's at the front desk is going to be a big part of it. The front office, there's no real official training for it. So the people who are given those roles are only as good as the person who trained them. How good are they? We don't know.
It's like playing the game of telephone. Yeah. You know how it just at the end of it just is all messed up. That's
exactly right. Absolutely right. Yeah. And it's just like, it gets lost in translation. Sometimes they're understaffed and they don't follow up with the billing. Like they could do good, when the payments come in from insurance, but they don't necessarily follow up the monthly reports after that point.
Sure.
And so there's just so many places that you can drop the ball in billing. And unfortunately, it doesn't take long for things to get in arrears. It can happen in just a matter of months that things can fall behind, and then it's hard to catch up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I remember seeing this even when I managed my dad's dental lab. That was one of our biggest problems is billing and accounts receivable. It's not a fun problem to have. I remember having a lot of cash flow issues because of it. I don't like cash flow issues. I'm sure practice owners don't want cash flow issues. Like how can they avoid having those issues?
The big thing is for dentists, and we all know they're great clinicians. They are not necessarily educated in business. So they need to pay attention. They need to pay attention to what's going on with those aging reports, make sure whoever's taking care of it is doing a good job. And these days, there's plenty of businesses out there like mine where we can do it for them. And that way they know they're always caught up. It just kind of makes sense for the dentist to be in tune of what is going on. For instance, I just did a claim or a client where they had an embezzlement problem and they didn't know. They knew something was wrong, but they didn't know what. And it was because they did start paying attention to the deposit slips. They're like, this isn't making sense. And so in 5 weeks, this lady stole over $3,000 in her own pocket and sent off insurance claims in the amount of $32,000. Like it was a big deal in just 5 weeks. Wow. Yeah. And so I got to go in there, get it all cleaned. I was like a detective. It was awesome. I got her dead to rights. I can't wait for the charges to be brought up.
Oh yeah, I bet. No, that's too bad. And that's a very common problem in dentistry.
It's so common. Yes. And they're just, if they're not paying attention, they don't know.
And I wish I know the stats of like how many practices, have the embezzlement problem because of their billing issues. It's pretty
absolutely, yeah. And so many won't report them. Yeah, they just assume it's being done, or they're embarrassed, so they're like, we're past this. Let's not even do anything with it.
Goodness, but, that's not cool.
So there's the malfeasance, Alyssa, but like I'm assuming just the negligence of billing improperly or just not following up, like you said. Do you have horror stories of like accounts receivables that just get everybody means well, but
however, I have multiple stories. So this is kind of what brought my eye to it. I recognized over the years I'd make a great forensic accountant if I weren't a hygienist. So here we are.
Nice.
So anytime the office where I was working had the front desk leave, I would pull the reports and I'd see we were on 3 different occasions. One time we were 60 grand behind, one time we were 80 grand behind, one we were 120 grand behind. One lady, she was afraid to collect money from patients or send out patient bills. It made her uncomfortable asking for money. Another one, she was trained over in London with that insurance system versus America. It works a little differently. So she didn't know how to follow up with insurance to get those things paid if they didn't receive the payment. And the last one, he just got complacent and over the course of a couple of years, just let it fall to $120,000. So I took it as my personal mission to get it cleaned up. I would stay after hours of hygiene and then do all of that. That way the next person who came in didn't come into a train wreck. And so each time I got those collections up, cleared up, and I loved it. Getting those ledgers to zero makes me so happy. You think it's my own money.
It's like a game.
Best. It is. It's a puzzle. Yeah. It's great.
Well, it's good to have people like you in the industry for sure.
Yeah. I didn't realize I'd be so passionate about it.
On average, this just got me thinking, what, like the aging, the 30, 60, 90 days in a practice, like what's an average practice? Is it like 60 days? Is it 30? Is it 90? Because I know insurance companies really influence the cash flow of the practice. It can put it in a real bad spot. So what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, what I've seen and what it should be are definitely two different animals. So typically you should have all the insurance claims paid the 30 days. If it's clean claims sent in properly the first time, that should all be caught up. There's going to be exceptions that do fall into the 60 days. If there's, complications they want for their narratives, that's fine. But really you shouldn't have more than an ortho insurance claim out more than 90 days. And so what I see completely is they just fall through the cracks, and the 90 plus days are the ones that are the highest. And that is, it's completely ass backwards. It's not, pardon my French, it's not good.
You're fine. Yeah.
Okay, good. So it gets, like I said, it falls behind quickly, and the dentists oftentimes have no idea. And what drives me nuts with this is they've now paid somebody to send in these claims, maybe follow up with it. They don't fully follow up with it. So they've paid them to do that job, but they're not doing their job. So now they have to pay me to do it. So it would make more sense to have somebody like me in the first place pay me once, not twice.
Yeah, so that's actually really interesting you bring that point up, because one thing that really bothers me if I were a practice owner, from a business standpoint, the cost to there's always a cost to, and I'm going to go a little bit out there from the billing conversation. We're going to talk business as a whole.
Sure.
The cost to acquire a patient, there's always going to be a cost. If a practice wants to acquire a new patient, there's, and I think that's the number one thing practices wants is I want more patients, right?
Right.
There is a cost to acquire it, and then after working with insurance, there's a cost to manage and acquire the revenue produced, right? Meaning the billing side of things. So
Yes.
what you're saying is a lot of practices will pay somebody to do it. They don't do a good job on it. They're paying them.
Yes.
So the cost to generate that revenue,
Mm-hmm.
not in my opinion, but in what I've seen in any business, there is such a thing as bad revenue. And so that sounds like that practice is allowing bad revenue to creep into their practice because they're paying staff and they're like, well, we need to pay more money to acquire that and make sure that revenue gets into our bank account. That seems really crazy to me. So,
yeah.
And your point is, well, like it's way more efficient to hire somebody that's just going to do it the right way.
Correct.
Are you? I'm imagining that's the scenario in most practices, because our first comment of office managers aren't being trained. It's the game of telephone. And by the time they become an office manager, there's so much important tasks that just get forgotten or not are trained correctly. So these practices are getting into these weird ruts with collecting money. Is that kind of what you're seeing? That's
exactly right. 100% correct. Yes. Yes.
The cost to acquire and then the cost to maintain money is really high in practices.
Mhm.
So we got to fix that.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. It's a huge problem. Like I was talking about earlier, the lady who was trained on insurance in London with one claim that didn't get paid, instead of her even just picking up the phone calling for it, she resubmitted a claim 13 times. So every time she submitted it, we had to pay a claim fee for it.
How much is a claim fee?
I don't remember what it was at that point. I want to say it was like 50 cents a claim with that system. And that goes back,
sure, but it all adds up
8 years ago. It all adds up. And so again, it's like she's wasting the time to say, oh, it hasn't been paid. Let me do this again. It's like 13 times. What are you doing? You just had to call them and give them a date. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually fascinating. The world of dental billing has always fascinated me because of all these issues. And what it does to the profit margin of the practice also concerns me.
Exactly right.
If
yes.
you're spending all this money trying to collect,
Yep.
all that means is your profit margins are being reduced even more. And on top of that, you got the insurance companies that are reducing your profit margins. And then there's just another layer of that. So having proper billing is so critical. And so many practices that fly by the seat of their pants on the billing side or are neglectful like that. Yeah, you gotta change that, practice owners out there listening.
Yeah. So Alyssa, on that front, I mean, you mentioned a couple of scenarios where maybe it's the front office staff or someone who, like you said in that previous example, where they're just sending in the claim over and over and over again, which is, if you don't know better, you're just going to do, well, I'll do this till it works,
Exactly.
But what are some other bad practices that you see out there that offices are doing that are really hurting them that they may or may not even be aware of?
Oh, goodness. That's a great question. You're going to make me think on that one.
Sorry.
No, not at all. The bad practices. So this is, I don't want to bash dentists, but they're kind of cheap. And so the problem is that to me is a bad practice because you're putting bad money after good. It's like, why do you keep making the same mistake again and again and again and again? It's like you're recognizing there's a problem. So let me give you an example. I've cleaned up several offices and they're like, okay, great, we're all caught up, we're good to go. And I'm like, okay, it would make sense to keep me on monthly so we never get here again. But then they're hesitant. They're like, oh, I don't really want to pay that $500 a month to keep you on. I'd rather just have my office do it. I'm like, okay, I'll see you in 6 months. It just doesn't make sense to me. So those are some of the bad practices. Yeah, because I have to redo it all over again. So those are some of the practices that I'm seeing. I feel bad saying it.
It makes sense. And it's a mentality thing, right?
Yes.
I had a family member that I helped with business at one point. I won't say who to keep them from being embarrassed, but at one point we had a really hard conversation. This was not in medical or dental or anywhere, completely different industry, where they had a hard time with some of the accounts receivable issues, asking for money, doing the automated systems and hoping they worked, even though they never did. And at one point we had this hard conversation. They're like, well, if I get aggressive with this, I'm going to lose customers. And my response to that is, these aren't customers. They're not paid customers. You're not running a charity.
Exactly.
If they don't pay you, they're never going to be customers. 100%. And if you can't get them to pay you, then you don't want them anyway.
You don't want them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that there's a mentality there with small business owners because, as Jordan put, it's so, and I'm the marketing guy. It's my job to go acquire customers, right? Or acquire patients. I understand the sweat equity alone of what it takes to get someone in the door in a practice. Yeah. That being said, if they come in the door and they never pay their bill, then that's doubly bad. So just because you've invested in getting them in for treatment doesn't mean that you want them. They have to pay their bills. You have to be mindful that this is a business transaction. And I think that mentality with all small business owners, but especially with I've seen it on the medical side a lot too, where they're just afraid. They're afraid because they're providing a service towards someone's health and they don't want to make it about money.
Monetary,
they don't want to have that conversation. But at the end of the day, you can't run this practice without having cash in the door.
Exactly.
Well, there definitely is a fine balance, right? If you run into a practice owner, a dentist that is more money driven, right? You can read it, right? So when we talk about money, or at least when I talk about money, I always say, well, money is just a byproduct of the value that you bring to somebody.
Right? Exactly. It's an energy.
Yeah. It's just a byproduct. It never should be the forefront of your mind. It definitely should be something you think about to operate your business. Right. But in order to receive great sums of money, you need to bring great sums of value to that person first, right? And even identify, as Bentley said, identify the right types of patients, because that could be a huge problem when it comes to the post. I've done procedures now. It's time to collect money. If you're attracting the wrong patients, it sounds like you could run into a lot of AR problems because of the wrong patients.
100%. Yeah. When it was during, go ahead.
I was going to say, or the wrong PPO plan, right? That you signed the dotted line.
You don't want to get me going down that avenue. We're on the same page with insurance. I could go all day about that. Yeah, one of the things that I try to stand out for with the accounts receivables, because money is funny and people are emotional about it. And especially if it's a past due balance. Like during COVID, I couldn't see patients for 6 weeks. And so I switched to the upfront role and immediately pulled up the aging reports and saw that we were $17,000 in arrears on our collections. At that point, we had somebody that was doing a decent job, not bad. And so I just started literally calling, picking up the phone, calling,
just helping out. Yeah.
Hey, I'm like, hey, you owe us money, and talked about what it was. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I knew I owed something. Yeah. Like, let me get it paid. And literally in 4 days, I got $17,000 paid. It was so easy. Nice. It was so fast. And so the key of what I try to do is you get more flies with honey. I kill them with kindness. I explain the situation. I make it non-emotional. Like, it is a fact. I understand where you're coming from. And then I get the bills paid, and so it's nice that I can keep that patient rapport and keep patients happy, even if they've been ignoring this, or in the case where they haven't received a bill in a year. It's like, it's key to keep those patients. Because in your case, like you said, if they're not paying, they're not your patients. But if they don't know they have a balance, why would they ever pay a balance they don't know they have? If nobody's talking to them about it.
And maybe they're bad patients like me that I never check my mail. Like,
exactly. Oh, it happens all the time.
I actually had a dental practice do that very thing. I had an HSA plan with my last job, and so we just set up auto payments. Like, I had a Crown and I said, I'm putting this much in, just take this much out every month. Well, I switched jobs and the HSA ran out of money and I completely forgot about it. And I had a leftover balance, and had they not called me, I never would have known, because it was out of sight, out of mind. As soon as they called, they say, hey, you still owe us like $250. Can we take care of this? And I'm like, it was, they were polite about it. They were pleasant, that easy. And I was happy to pay. It's like, you did a great job. I love my Crown. I'm not gonna stiff you on the bill,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. and they, like I said, they don't know, they're not going to pay. So yeah, it's such an easy way to go about it.
So great communication is key, it sounds, especially is there like, well, we sent them an invoice last year. How come they haven't paid it?
Yeah, I can't believe this jerk, man. Hasn't paid
Oh
his
man,
bill.
it's like, yeah, let's communicate. Communication is key here. And there's a lot of tools out there that allow that to be a lot easier, you know?
Absolutely.
Oh no, this has been awesome. So what, remind me, what made you want to do remote billing for practices? Because like you said, money is funny, and I'm sure there's odd calls that you have towards patients that, you know, but like what really made you go from hygiene to this side of the house of dentistry? Like, what was the motives?
Right. The motive really was how excited I got about getting those patients to pay or the insurance claims caught up. To take an aging report from like 35 pages to 2 just makes me so internally happy. And so when I recognized I couldn't do the job, I'm like, wait, I can do something with this, and remotely I can do it from anywhere. You know, I have a home office, but I want to travel. My kids are out of the house. You know, I'm an empty nester, and I want to go see the world. So why not do it from wherever I want? So it's so many. Cool. It's going to be great. Yeah.
You've gone from cleaning teeth to cleaning AR.
Yeah, I'm just a cleaner.
Financial AR. Yeah, you're just financial AR.
Yeah, it's good to be detail oriented and better than a hygienist, you know.
Financial hygienist. That's what it is. You're the financial hygienist. Yeah.
Thanks. That's my next marketing strategy. Thanks, Jordan. There we go. It.
You're welcome. No, this is awesome. So as our audiences listen to this episode and connects with you as a person and enjoys your tips and everything you shared here, what's the best place our audience can find you and about you and your business?
Absolutely. On Facebook, it's Lighter Ledgers, LIGHTER Ledgers. And then my website is lighterledgers.com.
Cool. Lighterledgers.com. Go check that out. We'll leave everything in the show notes, Bentley. So if you're listening or driving, stop, and then you can click the link after you stop. But Alyssa, we really appreciate you coming on the show today, talking billing. I know it's a huge problem in a lot of our practices. With that said, visit our website, and we hope you all have a rocking day.
Thank you guys so much.
Thanks.